patient advocacy groups are what makes the difference, and that's like us, and that's disease-specific groups who are raising money. And from my perspective, I think rare disease-specific groups could do a better job of working together because, any one of those 7,000 diseases alone is rare, but when you pool all rare diseases together, it's 350 million people have rare disease, 30 million people in the U.S., and that means 1 out of 10 Americans has a rare disease. And especially genetic ones, all of us carry like 3 to 4 gene mutations. And so for those, 7,000 diseases. So it's just about if you end up with a partner who has one of the same gene mutations as you. So it doesn't happen very often, but we all are carriers of rare disease, and it could happen to any of us. So one of the first things the foundation did, and I'm kind of jumping all over the place, sorry, is it's how do we become applicable to everyone? Because unless you know Christian or unless you know someone with Batten disease, why would that matter to you, right? So the first idea, and Mark Chandler is a really smart scientist guy who's a friend of the Bensons, and he said, well, all of us are carriers of rare disease, so that's the way to make it applicable, and let's create a test so people can screen for their genetic mutations so they know what they're a carrier of. Sure. So I think our approach is do that basic science, that studying, and try and figure out what's going on, but also sort of try some novel things and maybe riskier things, and build on what people have already been talking about and studying and learning, and don't go back and reinvent the wheel. Take it from there and try and then advance the science that way. So I think that's big, and you can imagine with children, who can't really tell you what's the matter always, you know what I mean, don't have a good sense of why something's going wrong. So that's tough. Here's a good example of one of the things I told you too about the number of nonprofits for Batten disease, and you know how rare it is. There's 46 foundations around the world raising money, not raising a lot of money, but so everybody says that's people's most immediate reaction is, I want to do something about this, right? I want to fund research. But if it's 46 people paying for 46 institutions to do research on Batten disease, we're not really pooling the resources and taking advantage of it. So that's kind of one of our goals, is bring everybody together. It's called Faster Cures, and it's an organization they put on a conference every year, and their whole goal is how are we going to speed up cures? How are we going to speed up this medical research thing? And they invite people from the government, and they invite private patient advocacy foundations, and they invite venture capitalists, and they invite pharmaceutical companies, and we all go to a 4-day meeting and talk about ways we can work together. And I think that is the future. I think it's sharing information, and we're at a point now where it's so much easier to share information than it ever was before. So for something like Batten disease, we're doing some projects where they're just going to take all the drugs that already exist for neurological disorders and try them and see what happens. And they can put 100 at a time in a little petri dish and drop cells in there. And because of robotics, because they can move really fast, in 2 weeks they could have tested, hundreds of drugs. So the technology is getting where we can really take advantage of it, but it's going to be those kind of things and people sharing information, I think.